Do you suffer from painful, heavy periods, PMS, mood swings, or migraines? Are you tired of being told they are just normal parts of life? Or are you afraid your child's going to suffer these symptoms too? At Vividus, the full of life company, we take the pain, misery, and confusion out of those menstrual cycles and replace them with tools of empowerment and time management so you can be Vividus. Visit embracingflowpodcast.com for more information on transforming your cycles from ow to wow. Information shared on the Embracing Flow podcast is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice.
Ever felt frustrated being told PMS, heavy bleeding, and cramping are just normal parts of life? You're not alone. I loathed my monthly cycle for decades. That all changed when I earned 3 health coaching certifications discovering something incredible. Your period is vital. It is an outward sign of your inner health, and it holds the key to unlocking your full potential. I've been there battling heavy, painful periods, and I turn them into cycles with minimal PMS and cramping. Today, I'm on a mission to share that information with you. Pour a cup of your favorite drink, get comfy, and grab your headphones as we embark on a candid and empowering journey of self-discovery. Together, we'll demystify menstrual cycles, explore cyclical living, delve into natural birth control, and guide parents through those crucial period talks with tweens and teens. It's time to break the taboo around menstruation and embrace the wisdom it holds. I'm your host, Heather Almendinger, and this is the Embracing Flow podcast.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Embracing Flow. I'd like to introduce our guest today, an expert at Embracing Flow, Stasha Washburn. Welcome, Stasha, to Embracing Flow. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am super excited to be here. I've known Stasha for about 2 years now, and she is one of the big reasons why I do what I do. And why is that as well? Because Stasha is the period coach, the bloody kind, not the grammar kind. She's founder of the Period Coaching School. She's an international speaker, author of The Revolution Will Be Bloody. Excellent book, by the way. And brilliant business. Getting into that one soon. Can't wait. Inventor of the world's first period oracle card deck. She's also a dancer, cook, sword fighter, Tai Chi practitioner, skateboarder, INTJ, outdoor lover, world traveler. She'll go anywhere as long as there is a tea kettle and Wi-Fi. She's a certified holistic health coach and has 25 years of research that has fueled her passion to connect women to the power in their period. Stasha is leading the bloody revolution to end the taboo of menstruation worldwide. No longer whispers in the bathroom. She's leading powerful public discussions. And that is why she is one of my mentors. As you know, I am breaking the world of the taboo of menstruation as well. And I am so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm stoked.
I am as well. As I start every podcast, I ask my guests that are menstruators, your first experience, approximately what age, and what was your experience with that cycle or a cycle in that realm that you can kind of remember it?
Yeah, so I very publicly don't necessarily remember my first period. I do you think I probably just like blacked out a lot of this stuff. But I was definitely in high school. I was definitely later. I was dancing in high school. I was in a ballet company. So I was going to high school and I was going to ballet company classes and I was going to like tap, jazz, and modern and stuff. So I was skinny and underweight, but I mean, I ate a ton, so it's not like I was starving myself or anything. But it delayed menstruation, right? Because you have to sort of reach a certain weight to hit that. So I was definitely later in my school, definitely in high school. And one of my first memories is blacking out in front of my locker, coming to, and there was a girl standing there, and I don't remember who it was, but I remember her just saying, "Oh my God, what happened?" And I said, "Oh, I must have just gotten my period." It wasn't the first time I had blacked out, but it was certainly one of the first memories I have. And I had put it together that that would happen. And she was like, "Oh my God, TMI." It was the 90s. "Oh my God, TMI." And it was the first real solid memory I have because it was so impactful that I had to remember to not talk about it. So I had to come out of being, passing out and then have my wits about me quickly enough to remember to care for other people's sensibilities and take care of their feelings and make sure that they were uncomfortable with what was happening to me. So that was one of those like first things. I mean, I blacked out in English class, woke up in the nurse's office. I blacked out in the shower a couple of times. Like I remember these moments, but that one moment was fairly early on. And it was the first time I really realized that I had to keep this secret. And so it was a really impactful moment for me.
Yeah. And it really stinks that we have to keep that quiet. I I
Yeah.
I know that people have heard my story with third period in 7th grade. I started in dark blue pants and ended the day in bright white sweatpants because that's all the nurse had. But yeah, you have to you've learned to, oh no, we can't talk about that. That's gross. That's not something. But I know that that has changed. What changed that? Not necessarily ignoring what people think, but you are a very large microphone when it comes to, and in a good way, uh, embracing this, getting rid of this taboo and getting rid of the keeping it quiet in the bathrooms. No, we need to talk about this. How did that change? What was there a certain situation that you went from, I'm tired of keeping this stuff in the closet. I want to talk about this. This needs to be talked about. Was there a certain situation?
It was more of a gradual progression. So I haven't had the surgery for endometriosis, but I have several specialist doctors that I've been on panels with and told my story to that have all been like, you have endometriosis, like just FYI. So I I was in a lot of pain. I mean, my doctors in high school tried everything, experimental birth controls, narcotics, combinations of things that if I had an addictive personality, I'd probably be doing like addiction podcasts instead of period podcasts. But thankfully, it's not something in our family. So, whew. But yeah, I was in just so much pain and nobody could help me and nothing made a dent in it. I found that extremely strong ginger tea actually reduced the pain more than the prescribed narcotics. So I eventually gave up on Western medicine, which I'm not going to say that I don't support Western medicine. They have absolutely the time and the place. Please don't go crazy on me. But it just wasn't helpful for this situation. So
Hmm?
I started doing a lot of research. I started finding out that, other cultures have a lot of support for menstrual cycles, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, all these other things. So I started just trying to learn everything I could from every source I could instead of going like, no, this is good, this is bad. I just kind of went, well, but does it work or does it not work? Like that's going to be my new thing. So it was sort of through that process and then talking to friends about what I was learning and realizing that what I was learning was helping them. Like it wasn't helping me so much, but it was helping them. And I thought, okay, well, if I talk about this, I could at least help other people. And like that would sort of make me feel better about it. So I just got to this place where I was like, I can't live like this anymore. I have to take control of my life. Like I can't work for other people. The endometriosis, it was just like I couldn't keep a job for much more than a year or two because the throwing up in the bathroom is frowned upon every month, turns out. You can only tell them you got food poisoning so many times. So I eventually just was like, I have to do my own business. I have to figure out how to work with my own cycle. And if I can help anyone else avoid the pain and suffering that I'm going through, then at least something good will have come out of this pain and this trauma and this, I don't know, probably CPTSD. I've not been diagnosed, but like reading about it, I'm like, yeah, okay, that feels like PTSD. Sure. So I just like, if I can make something come out of this, it's better for at least someone, one person, then I'll feel like all of this trauma was at least worth it somehow, somewhere. So I don't know that there was one moment as much as, okay, this is working for other people. Okay, well, then let me help other people then. If I can do that, then that means I have to tell people about it. That means I have to talk about it. And that means I have to share about it. And I also had this voice in the back of my head constantly just going, this can't be right. And they're like, oh, well, some people just have painful periods and that's just part of being a woman. And I was like BS to me. Like, I don't feel like that's true. Like, there was just something inside me that just refused to believe it and refused to take that as an answer and just lived with it. And so I just never gave up. I never stopped searching for answers. I did figure out how to reduce my pain dramatically over time and experimentation and years. But yeah, it just took a lot of like telling people and talking about it. And I just realized what an impact that had on people and how much better they felt. And I just thought, then why are we treating this like it's a secret? Like, why are we not talking about it? And then the more I learned about the cycle, the more I learned about what our hormones are doing, the
Mhm.
more I was like, why don't we learn this? Like, why is this not part of school? And then, well, okay, but it's not. So then how can I just go teach people? Because we have to learn this information somehow, somewhere. And if
Mhm.
it's not going to be through the traditional channels, then it's going to be moms and
Mhm.
groups and dads and, people telling other people. And it's just going to have to be through, social media and podcasts and platforms. So that was just, I don't know. It was a gradual progression to, well, I'm already a loudmouth, so I might as well just make it a mission worth it. Like I might as well be out there screaming from the rooftops about something that's worthwhile and helpful and makes a real difference in the world and is practical.
Yeah.
So I chose my path.
Yes. And I'm guessing when you were a child or even a teen, if yourself would have went back to that time and said, "By the way, this is what you're gonna be doing," you'd been like, yeah, no.
Oh,
No."
God. No. Oh, no. No. Why?
Uh,
Why would you do that?
exactly. I would not have ever imagined being in this space, um, as well, and as I told you off camera, that is and off recording, finding you was kind of what the catalyst was for this, and what I'm doing, and we do have to be standing on the rooftops and screaming, um, 'cause I mean, you had those how I kind of find you is I wanted to fix my cycle, and I found the cyclical living, and it made so much more sense. I even have your postcard. Your postcard that you have for cyclical living is within arm's reach, and I show it to different people, and they're like, "That makes so much sense." Um, People hear me talking about it, but I learned it from you. What exactly is cyclical living?
Yeah. Well, it was something that I developed because of the endometriosis, right? So I had a week where it was just an incredible pain, throwing up, couldn't eat for days, just leave me on the floor, let me die. It sounds very dramatic, but it was very true. And suicidal ideation because the pain was just inevitable. And you're going, oh my God, I have 40 years of this ahead of me. Every month for
Yep.
a week, I'm gonna be in such pain that I don't want to be alive anymore. I don't think I can do this. So there was like, how do you live a life around horrifying pain that you can't do anything about but live through? And that was part of actually that healing process and that remission is what I would call it for the endo is just going, okay, well then how do I make the most of this phase? Like what are the strengths? So that I had to learn about the menstrual cycle and I had to learn what the hormones were doing. And then I had to learn what the phases were called. And then I had to go, well, that's not very good. We need more phases. And then I had to invent a phase of the cycle.
Yes, you did.
As I did. So I kind of just looked at it as very practical. How does one live harnessing the power that each phase has so that you're getting the most out of the days that are livable? So then I could have that week of just not existing in the world and it being okay. not affecting my bank account, not affecting my job status, not affecting, whatever relationships. But like, that's just finding a decent human being, not that's
Yeah.
all that. It's just being single for the most part. And so it was just very much like, okay, so how do I embrace these phases? So I learned what those hormones were dominant in each phase. I learned what kind of effects they had. I learned what all of my six senses had to say about those phases, like how they changed and shifted and morphed. I looked up other modalities. I saw how some things were aligned really well. Um, like the seasons for the Chinese medicine and the phases of the cycle, they have 5 seasons. They have 5 elements. And I practically think there's 5 phases to the menstrual cycle. So I thought, gosh, this makes so much sense because this makes sense with how I feel and how
Mm-hmm.
I live. And it makes sense. So we just sort of, I don't know, I just started blending things together and living through experimentation. And then I had clients. So I started off with athletes. And I was working with all these women who were athletes and trying to do stuff and was kind of realizing that we were helping improve their periods as we were kind of starting to train with their cycles and making their periods better. And then a lot of them had businesses. And I was like, okay, well, I've been doing this for my business. Let's see if it works for yours. And then it just kept working over and over and over again. It worked. And so I just sort of went, okay, this just works so well. And it works over and over again with athletes, with business owners, all these different women from all these different walks of life. And it consistently works. So I've got something here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of where the sensual system came out of. It turned into a program called Flow Freedom. And it's really just looking at the 5 phases of the cycle and your 6 senses and making them match up. And the beauty of it is it's not doing stuff that you don't want to do. It's not like, okay, today you have to eat a bucket of kale. It's like, here's a whole bunch of stuff that will help support your hormones in this phase and pick out the things that you love and you like, do those, embrace those, really just wallow in the love of these things that you enjoy in this phase. And then in another week, when they're not as, that lemongrass candle and follicular that felt so energizing now smells a little bit abrasive. Great, switch.
Mm-hmm.
You've switched hormones, you've switched phases. So switch the scented candle or the essential oil or the screen or whatever it is, all of these senses. So it just really made a huge difference. And then it also made a huge difference in me and how I felt as well. So getting the diet stuff was definitely a thing. I realized gluten is a hard no. It makes the endo incredibly painful. Cannot have that. Realized where I could have a little caffeine and where I can't, where I can have a little sugar and where I can't. Sort of figured out where my edges were for everything. And then as I did that, it was just peeling layer after layer of the onion off and going, okay, now I'm noticing smells. And now I'm noticing how I feel. And now I'm noticing how the movement changes. I'm noticing how touch changes. And I'm noticing how my journaling changes and my spiritual practice changes. And just all these, my meditation practice changes, right? And so it was just like all of this stuff happened and it all came together and every layer was a little bit less painful, a little less exhausted, a little less nauseous, all of those symptoms of endometriosis, little layer by little layer peeled back until it was like, I'm now no longer throwing up for 3 days on the floor of my bathroom. I'm laying in bed. I'm relaxing. I'm not out there running a marathon, if at all avoidable, but I'm not on the floor of my bathroom either. And to me, that's great. So, even my partner is like, I kind of like this phase because then we just get to binge all the shows that we don't watch during the rest of the month in like one week. So he knows he's getting a week of just relaxing on the couch as well. So it just sort of worked out really well. So it was again a lot of experimentation, like this is why we put together programs and schools and these things, because my 20 years, 30 years of experimentation doesn't need to take you 30 years to get
Yep.
relief.
Nope. It took me a month.
Exactly.
Your experimentations and your knowledge and what you found took me implementing for a month, tracking for a month, really brought a lot of that in. I went from being on antidepressants for 10 years and realizing, hold on, I'm only having anxiety and depression 3, 4 days before my cycle.
Yeah.
Let me put the cyclical living into place, see how I feel, and then I'm going to experiment. I have not been on antidepressants for almost 2 years because it was part of my cycle.
Yeah. Oh, my PMDD clients, PMDD students, yeah, same. They almost all have the same experience, and it's just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. And it's and I know this because you said I practice what you've taught. This isn't just for those that have a menstrual cycle. This can be used when you're no longer menstruating, or even if it, it even kind of works if you're on hormonal birth control. It's a
Mhm.
little bit more of a
Yeah,
challenge
yeah,
with the HBC, but it can be used for those that aren't showing that outward endometrial bleed.
yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's coming back to living naturally, right? Living with natural rhythms. So the postmenopausal, non-menstruating in the school do everything. They just do it with the moon cycle. Dudes, I mean, like my partner, for example, but the husbands of students and clients have done this as well. And I'll say that, you know what, I actually feel a little bit better, feel a little less anxious. And people with perfectly fine periods have done this and said, gosh, but I feel better now. Like I
Mhm.
just feel more in tune. I feel more relaxed. It's like I didn't realize there was this low level hum. And as it disappeared, I went, oh gosh, I didn't even realize that was there. So it's one of those things that, like, you don't have to be in any extreme to see a benefit from it. It's really just coming back to those natural cyclical living that we had done for millennia before this, right? Like as human beings.
Yeah, and I know in the Revolution Will Be Bloody, you go into a little bit of the history on kind of how this has become such a taboo topic and how we were we were seen as witches. You know your cycle, we were seen as witches and burned at the stake, which is but then we also did bleed for 5 days and didn't die. So which is completely baffling to people that don't understand. Uh,
Yeah, and you know it's funny, like they're they're coming up with more material from like ancient days. And there is one which I need to go and see if this is just an internet thing or if it's actually true. Because I just stumbled upon it recently and I haven't, I had the flu and everything. So I didn't have time to really look at it, but I'm going to drop it here just in case. But there was one entry in an Egyptian like tile that basically said this gentleman is not coming to work today because his wife has her period. He was going home that day and not working. The theory is that he was going home to take care of the house, but whether it was kids or
mhm.
whatever, but she was bleeding, and therefore he was going home to, one assumes, help out. So it's just kind of a funny, like, human history, man, baffling the stuff that we have enjoyed, embraced, used to our advantage, right? There's so many different cultures that had celebrations around menstruation,
Mhm.
and so many cultures that were like, okay, now you're a she devil. We need to lock you away and make sure that you can't contaminate the food or kill the crops or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's so interesting to see how it's wildly different
Mhm.
across the years, the centuries, the cultures, the globe. And it's still that way to this day. And how we can bring it back into something that's actually powerful and useful. And hey, look, modern science has explained why we don't die. So, okay, great.
Yeah.
Now we have an explanation why someone can bleed for 7 days and not die. So excellent. Can we now move on
Yeah.
to like actually using this information, learning more about it, finding out different things, and using that information to our advantage? But then you're kind of crossing the patriarchal line, and they're not happy about that. So, not really don't want you to use your cycle to your advantage. And I tell people all the time, like, you want to fight the patriarchy, learn your menstrual cycle.
Mhm.
Easiest thing you can possibly do will make you feel like $1,000,000 and fight the patriarchy right
Yeah,
there. Easy, done.
yeah. They're the more I'm diving into this and the more I understand it, it's almost like there's yeah, we're finding out our power.
Uh-huh.
Our power is within our menstrual cycle, and it scares them,
Yeah.
and it's kind of funny in a way. It's appalling in a way that we've been pushed down so much because of this.
Yeah.
But just to think about it, on if we've been pushed down so much because of our cycle, look at how powerful that cycle really truly is.
Oh, yeah.
It is, and that's kind of why they're unleash your superpowers.
Yeah.
It's through
Yeah.
the menstrual cycle. It's learning it, it's understanding it, it's starting to live in cyclical living. It's all the stuff that you have taught through your webinars, through your seminars, through your talks, through your books, through your school. And now you're working with individuals with your bestie on your podcast. Can you tell us more about this? Because it's a different take on podcasts than what most are used to.
Yeah. I've wanted to do this for a really long time. Like, I have a folder on my computer from I think 7 years ago that's like the podcast folder, and it was the ideas and the, like, thumbnails, and it's hilarious because like, Canva didn't exist then, so it's the real, like, janky Photoshop stuff.
I remember those days. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right?
The really bad pixel pictures.
Yes, absolutely. Terrible, but amazing. But yeah, I wanted to do it for a long time, and, I was talking to Katie one day, and I was telling her about it, and she was like, "Well, why don't we just do it?" And I was like, "Because I just don't have the capacity to do it by myself. And I don't really wanna invest in, like, a high-tech team to do all of the back end stuff for me because it's, A, very expensive,
Mhm.
and B, what if it's just meh, and it doesn't take off, and it's not and I'm spending all of this money on something, like, she was like, "Oh my god, we'll just split it. Like, you're good at editing. I'm good at putting clips for social media together. Like, let's just do this." So we did. And it just came together. We started in October. We launched this beginning of this year. I think it was March 1st that we launched. Well, not first, but fourth, something like that. And then yeah, one of the things that I really wanted to do was have people come on and get live period coaching, to have an opportunity to exchange their, information with the world, essentially, for free support and help and
Mhm.
coaching. And by doing that, help other people because other people are going to have the same problems they have.
Mhm.
So and it's kind of a win win win. They get free coaching, we get to help somebody, which, we both love to do.
Mhm.
And the listeners are going to be able to go, "Oh gosh, I have that problem." Or, "I've been trying to get off of birth control," or, blah, blah, blah. So we can do that as well. So that was really one of the first things I wanted to do for the podcast. And it was one of the things I wanted to make sure was integrated into it. And of course, we're interviewing other people about their businesses and period coaching and, that kind of stuff. Cause I also find very fascinating. Like, one of the things I love to talk to the experts in the field about is like, where do you think this is going? Like, what do you think the future holds? Cause I find it fascinating. I'm certainly one of those people that are way out in the future of the rest of the world anyway. So I like having those kind of, hypothetical questions and chats about, what the future holds and that kind of thing. And then, of course, sprinkling in wisdom of the cycle and the phases and problems and that kind of thing and what you can do. So, yeah, but the live coaching I'm really excited about, and I can't wait for more of those episodes to start sprinkling in.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing them. I mean, with Lisa Henderson Jack and Ricky Lake, and Abby Epstein you had on, and just the the episodes have been phenomenal. And the fact that you're doing the live coaching so somebody can come on, like I said, share what they're experiencing, and you can say, "Oh, okay, these are some things that may help you."
Mhm.
This is and then walking in and going, I'm not being dismissed, I'm being heard, I'm being seen, I'm not being prescribed a medication that I don't know what it's gonna do to me. So that is I I'm so happy that you and Katie got together and are doing this, because Katie is another beautiful megaphone in this space.
Yep.
And to have that resource for anybody to listen to is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you for pulling that folder and for Katie to go, "Okay, I'll split it with you," and getting it out there, because it is definitely needed. I get a lot of questions through social media. "Hey, this is what's going on. What's wrong with me?"
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes it's simple. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging,
Yeah.
but
Ex
they have resources. And if I can't answer it, I know I have resources to send them to and places to send them. And that is the beautiful thing about this space, is we're not
Yeah.
alone.
Yes, 100%. That is exactly it. And like behind the scenes, period coaches, good ones anyway, are talking to each other. I mean, Katie and I have been texting each other for 10 years going, all right, look, my client just said this to me. And it is the first time I've heard that. Like, have we had an entire group of friends in Los Angeles called the Menstruati that Holly Griggs Fall started. And we would like send into the group chat, like, oh my God, this just came up. What do you guys think? Or like, my period just did this weird thing. What do you guys think? Or, what can we expect to have happen? Like when COVID hit, we were all like, okay, so we all know that everyone's periods are going to get wonky because this is stressful and stress alone makes your period weird.
Yep.
So, like, let's talk about what we know is probably going to happen with, all of the stress happening. And then, of course, we know that flu can cause period disruptions. So,
Yep.
like, that this is probably gonna do the same thing. So, like, we got together and chatted through, like, we know what disrupting factors happen. These are all disrupting factors happening at the same time. So how are we gonna reassure
Mm.
our clients? How are we gonna reassure our communities? Like, we had behind the scenes community to help support and talk through things and chat through, like, this client needs that, you're really good at this. Can I have you do a session? Blah, blah, blah. So it's like, and if you're doing it properly, you're in a community, you have support, right? That's a big part of period coaching schools. I wanted to have a place for everyone to have support and community,
Mhm.
especially when you're seeing those first few clients and you're like,
Yeah.
oh God, this is weird and hard and I don't know what to do. You can come and have support. And in this way, we could actually help people
Mhm.
practically and better because we have each other and we have the
Yep.
support of each other in our experiences. And one person can't do it all.
Nope.
That's just not a thing.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, that support bit is huge. And that's what we say, like, you can come on the podcast and you get 2 period coaches for free. Like, come
Yeah.
on now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I even get people like, "A period coach? What's a period coach?" There are people that don't even understand what it is, but then when you explain to them what it is,
Mhm,
they're like, or you talk to them, they're like, "Where have you been for 20 years?"
mhm.
I'm like, I know. I could have used this 20 years ago when I first
Same,
started cycling, actually more than 20 years ago. Um,
same.
I was 10 with my first cycle. So, I've had it for a while. I'm not looking forward to menopause, but I'm actually enjoying my cycle right now, which I've only been doing that for 2 years, but yeah, it is a
Same.
community. It's a beautiful community, and it's not just a United States community. It's becoming a worldwide community.
Much so.
Uh, it seems like the United States is one of the last countries to really grab hold of this concept and grab
Yeah.
hold of this type of an industry, but we're finally getting there.
Yeah, for the longest time, I had more international clients. I had more Aussie clients than I had American clients. And then if you added in the other countries, it was like 75% other countries. than Americans. And people would ask me why that is. And I was like, I honestly think it's just because Americans are embarrassed to talk about it. Whereas like everyone else was just so happy to find relief that they were telling everyone they knew. But the Americans are like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
still
yeah,
weird. And there's
yeah.
just such a like perfection veneer in America that it seemed like it took a lot longer for Americans to go, okay, you know what? I do want to talk about this. So I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, and it seems like the last probably 2 years, it's really being brought to the forefront on how it affects us and that equality in work, and, uh, I know the perimenopause and the menopause has
Hmm.
really been brought to the forefront, and a lot of coaches are really focusing on that. I'm looking at the first generation, those younger kids,
Yeah.
because the more I find out, the more what you were experiencing as a teen was actually telling you what was going to happen as an adult, and they're finding that periods as teenagers is kind of in a way, a diagnosis for what they may experience in adulthood. And and so, yeah,
I agree. I
yeah.
mean, it's like like my mantra is we need it all.
Mhm.
Like, this is why I did peer coaching school because I just couldn't, like, you can't do it by yourself, right? And we needed so many people doing so many different things. And I was like, I can't do all of this. Like, I can't be a, I was running a group class for teens. And then the next day I was doing a perimenopause consult. And then the next day I was doing an endo consult. And I was like, oh my God, I love it. I love the diversity of all of it. But like, I need more people. Like, I need help. I need more people doing this work. And so it was really one of those things where I just sort of looked around and went, well, there's a lot of coaching schools, but there's none that are focused on menstruation. There's some menstrual leadership courses. There's some menstrual energy work kind of things. But there wasn't really anything that was like, let's get out there, boots on the ground, actually educate, improve, help, practicality. Again, I'm nothing if not practical. We need coaches. We need the people that come between doctor and patient that have more than 7 minutes and a prescription pad. We need somebody who can spend an hour with you twice a month and have those conversations and move things forward. Like and we need people doing it for puberty, for preparing for puberty, for
Yeah.
mom and dad and everyone else, whoever's in charge of kids,
Mhm.
right? Like everybody. We need those fertile year coaches. We need the people who deal with different problem coaches. Where are my ADHD and PCOS coaches? Where are my endometriosis and leadership coaches? Like I
Yeah.
need all of my where are my diabetes and PCOS coaches? Like I need all of these niches and people coming together. And then I need my perimenopause, my postmenopausal coaches. Like I just was like, okay, that's it. We need a school where you can get a bit of training on all of these things so that then people can go out and actually like get into these niches and make real significant change. And if we all do it all together, then we'll hit every generation across the board is like a rising wave. And
Yeah.
that's really where it was like, let's ripple this into a big old fat wave and just do it across the board. I don't think small.
Well, that's where those initials come into play we talked about earlier. It's the big red wave.
It
Eh,
is exactly it.
the non-political big red
Yes,
waves.
exactly. Exactly.
Oh, so before we go, what do you have any wise last bits of wisdom to share with us?
I think the thing that makes the biggest impact is having these conversations. So, for the menstruators out there, start charting, start learning about your cycle, start telling your loved ones what's going on, what phase you're in, what you're feeling, and why. Just start educating yourself and those around you. And for the non menstruators, start asking, where are you in your cycle? How do you feel? What's going on? Just start the conversations and be open, be honest. If you're in an extreme amount of pain, tell them. If you are bleeding for the fifth day in a row, copious amounts, and you're freaking exhausted, tell them. Just start having those conversations. If you feel like $1,000,000, amazing, tell them. But just start having those conversations.
Yep. Communication is key. It
Yeah.
really is. Wow. Thank you. What amazing words to take with us and to end on. Thank you so much, Stasha, for taking us on this enlightening journey into the menstrual cycle and coaching and everything that you've done, and for being that big, beautiful megaphone.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for picking up the microphone and making a difference in the world. That's exactly what we need. I'm so proud of you, and I love this podcast, and I can't wait to hear more episodes.
I appreciate it. That means the world to me with you being one of my mentors. Just kind of disclosure here. Yes, I am a member or I'm a student of the period coaching school. So
And we go.
um I've I'm still kind of awestruck with having Stasha on here, but all of the links that we spoke about, the period coaching school, her books, her Oracle deck, all of that can be found in the show notes. Thank you so much, listeners, for spending your time with us today. If you found a nugget of wisdom or a moment of empowerment, my mission is accomplished. Do you know someone that could benefit from the information? Please share Embracing Flow with them. So until next time, my friends, love hard, laugh often, and as always, be vividous. See you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Embracing Flow. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show, submit a rating and review, and share it with your friends. Visit my website to receive your free PDF on 4 ways to decrease PMS. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, love hard, laugh often, and as always, be vividous.
Information shared on the Embracing Flow podcast is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice.